Good morning. My hair is doing something weird and I can't fix it yet because I wanted to give you guys a rare Jack Jack sighting. He was right near me and I was able to pick him up and he did not have a problem with it. So here is Jack Jack for your morning. He's a good boy. And now I'm going to let him down because he's already restless. There you go, buddy. Thank you. Hi, guys. Good morning. It is good to see you. He is a good boy. He's the best. So today I'm excited to talk to you guys about this new moon we've got coming up because it's got some interesting subtleties to it. And there's a lot to explore with that. And I have a feeling you're going to hear a lot about it in all the astrology on social media this week. So I want to talk about it and ground ourselves into what we already know, what we can again ground our information in as far as historical value and what we know about what history says about it. It's not much. So it's something that, again, is one of those things that just warrants research. So we will be able to enjoy that today. Hi, Shauna. Good morning. So as a spoiler, good morning, Kristen. As a spoiler, we're going to be learning a little bit about the galactic center today. And I will tell you what it means, where to find it in the chart, if it matters natally, as far as I am educated, and what people who think differently than me will say too, so that you can get the full experience. Hey, Kathy, good morning. So that is what we will talk about today. For the most part, if you have questions, I will also field those. But I also want to make sure that we cover this new moon. It's the final new moon of 2025. It's a new moon in Sagittarius. And it's, like I said, it's got that galactic center signature to it, which I am interested to watch and just see if anything notable happens at that time. So we'll be able to sort of observe that together. And I'm really excited about it. How are you guys doing today? I apologize. My voice is a little raw because way back around my birthday, about a month before my birthday, I met a new guide who focuses around music. I actually met them when Emily and I and a group that we were working with in Tahoe in April we're doing an astral party, which is when you kind of set the intention that when you sleep that night, you'll all go to this astral party. You wake up in the morning, and whether you dreamt about it actively or not, you sort of journal what happened. And then we validate each other's experiences, which is really fun. Em's probably going to be doing a course on this soon. So feel free to jump in on that because it's really fun. And at this astral party, I had remembered that there was a guide I was working with, but they were in two places at once. And hey, Hunter, it's good to see you. Good morning, Nicole. They were in two places at once. And one was sort of DJing the party. And that hit me in a very personal way for the way that I work with this one guide. And so I was like, what's going on with that? So I did some research and I looked up what entity of this nature works with music, this kind of thing, found out who they were. And they are actually like a sort of binary counterpart to the guide that I was working with. So you know how you have the three-faced goddesses, like Hecate, who has sort of three phases to them. This entity had two phases. So almost like a twin kind of entity, same and kind of thing. Good morning, Ren. And so I got to start working with that energy right before my birthday. And one of the things we agreed on was that I would start singing again. And so I've spent this whole year being like, well, I need to find a voice teacher. I need it to be possible to pay a voice teacher or to trade a voice teacher or something. And just recently, I was finally able to work it into the budget to have voice lessons once a month. And I had my first voice lesson and I've been practicing every day since then. And so as you can tell, I just finished before jumping on here. So a little bit hoarse because I was singing some Idina Menzel high notes. Getting better though already, and it's only been like half a week. So excited about that. Yeah. So that's why my voice is a little scratchy, and I will be drinking extra water probably today as I get used to that. But I can still talk astrology because when can't I talk astrology? So I want to talk to you guys about anything you want to talk about, first of all, and we'll do a brief overview of the astrology of this week. Then we'll get into the new moon and talk about some of the magical things you can do with it. If you've heard Em and I talking about it on the podcast or on the Alchemist Inc. Spill Lives on Friday, it does feel kind of whimsical. And the galactic center thing, to me, only adds to the whimsy of it. When I am such a cynic when it comes to astrology. I know this about myself and I try to check myself, but I also try not to like overpromise or do any toxic positivity stuff. So finding that balance is something that I work really hard on. Good morning, Lauren. Yeah, getting ready for the Germany trip. Yes, actually, I did tell my voice teacher I want to practice Sound of Music songs before going to Germany. So absolutely. um, and Stephanie, it's good to see you. So yeah, when it comes to astrology, I admit I'm a bit of a cynic. My Saturn and Jupiter are opposite each other in the third and ninth, so they affect this for me. And so I like to ground everything in something rational to make sure that if we ever get questioned on it, we know where we stand. That's my whole thing. Do your research on what you believe so you know why you believe it, so that you are more firm in what you believe and then flexible when you want to change. If you're always willing to ask questions and find answers, you will always be willing to grow. And that's fantastic. So it's one of my like methods of life. And when it comes to things like the galactic center and calling a new moon whimsical, I'm just like, yeah, but I acknowledge sometimes and in some ways and in a lot of ways right now, life is still hard. But even in hard times, like a hard arc or in a challenging story, right? You can have a story that is like just struggle after struggle after struggle after struggle, but occasionally the characters will laugh at something. So this is one of those things. If you're going through a struggle bus kind of time, relatable. This might be one of those times where you can find laughter or joy or whimsy, even in it. So I just want to clarify that saying something has whimsy to it does not mean we are negating the overtone of taking things seriously when they need to be taken seriously. And also, we are allowed to find joy in any moment so that we can keep our spirits up and be ready to handle those things that need to be taken seriously. This is one of those times where we get to hopefully lift our spirits. And I'll explain more about that in a minute. So, good morning, Kabin Callie. It's good to see you. So, with that, do we have any questions we want to jump to before I start going over the new moon for this week? I'll probably start with the transits for the week. There are a couple that we can be aware of, and then I'll jump into the new moon. It's a new moon. I'm working ahead right now, so I'm like on the next full moon already. So they're getting jumbled in my head. Apologies for that. Correct me if you catch me. I'm fine with that. No questions yet in the chat. Okay, cool. With that being the case, let's talk just a little bit about the transits this week. Today, let me actually see if it's happened yet or not, and what time it happens. I need a new chart for that. Update to now. Today, in fact, it has happened. Mars has ingressed into Capricorn, the sign of Capricorn. Capricorn is a cardinal earth sign, but it is also a very important place for Mars as a planet. Anybody, Shauna, I know you're in here. Do you know why Capricorn is important for Mars? Shauna is in my student study and I'm calling them out, not because I'm trying to be mean or anything. And if you don't want to answer, that's totally fine. But we did cover this. So take your time responding. You don't have to. But in the way that planets are gauged by their strength, we have two types of ways a planet can be dignified in a sign. They can either own that sign, which is called being in domicile. They have rulership over it, or they can be exalted in a sign. Shauna, you got it right before I got to it. I'm so incredibly excited about that. Thank you. They can be exalted in a sign. So when you're at home, you're comfy, you have all your resources, the fridge is stocked with your favorite food, right? And it's like stuff you can throw together. When you're exalted, it's like you're going to be VIP on a show and you have like the buffet of things that your agent told them that you want. And so they do all these things, especially for you. You are exalted in that case. So Mars, you rocked it, Shauna. Mars is exalted in Capricorn. Now the question becomes, when you have Mars, technically a malefic, right? A malefic planet. The two malefic planets are Saturn and Mars. Mars is the malefic planet that is a little bit more active in the way he goes about doing things. You think about Saturn is the one who's like calling the shots and making laws and doing all this stuff. Mars is out there like instigating, right? Think about Aries and Mars and those war gods that you know, right? They don't always mean war, but they can mean war, right? But you can think about war as an archetype. And so we think about battle and conflict and challenges. And like I said, instigation. There's a lot of heat and action that goes into that because of Mars's nature and the temperament of Mars. That going into Capricorn, this is for an image, a soldier who has been raised up in rank and is now an exalted soldier. This is the hero, maybe, right? So we're seeing Mars suddenly being a hero among the people or among whatever space Mars finds themselves in while in Capricorn. For reference, Mars will be in Capricorn from today through January 23rd. So we've got a period of time for Mars to be in Capricorn. I've given you a lot of keywords. This is our opportunity to pay attention to what happens, and especially to when Mars makes a transit. If Mars connects to anything and something happens on that day, you can shake your fist at Mars because I know I will. Yes, very Six of Wands vibes. Yeah, good correlation there, AJ. Oh, also, yesterday or the day before, over the weekend, was AJ's solo return and birthday. So if you want to, in the comments, please wish our wonderful mod a very happy birthday because they are incredible. Yesterday, I thought so. Okay. I was kind of down for the count yesterday. But yes, of course. So we have Mars exalted in Capricorn coming in today, staying through most of January. We'll pay attention to that through the month. And if something comes up, we'll make it make astrological sense as much as we need to. In this live, I am happy for if something comes up and I've been made aware of it. For if you ask me, like, what does the astrology say about this? I will at least correlate it to a transit if I can. If I can't, I'll research it and get back to you. Happy to do that. So just keeping that in mind. So yeah, tomorrow, the sun squares Saturn, which, is a part of Saturn's cycle that happens every year, twice a year, actually. It'll square one way and square the other. But it's also the day we get out of Mercury retrograde's post-shadow phase. Now, post-shadow and pre-shadow are more of a modern concept, but they make enough sense. It's nice to be able to say, like, Mercury has begun entering the degrees that they will recover during their retrograde. And then once the retrograde is over, post-shadow is they cover those degrees for the final time. So all of the degrees that Mercury backtracked over, Mercury has been making their way over them one more time, and we'll finish doing that tomorrow. So that will be the end of post-shadow. Some astrologers would say that the Mercury retrograde woes that you might have experienced should be done now, should be complete, should have been resolved at this point. So you are in the clear of the retrograde and its ripple effects. I'm having a really interesting experience right now where my chair, the seat or the sides can go up and down. And normally when I have them down, they're fine. But this one is like creeping back up, which is weird. It's never done that before. So that's cool. I'm going to pay attention to that later. Yeah. So that brings us to the 17th and the 18th are pretty quiet as far as perfecting aspects go. And that brings us to the 19th. The 19th will be the new moon in Sagittarius. And it is followed, of course, by the solstice, which happens on Sunday. Sunday is the December solstice, and we can spend some time talking about that as well. I think we're going to lean into that even more on the Friday Alchemist Ink Spill. So if you want to talk solstice stuff on Friday, which is the 19th, during this new moon, Em and I will be talking live here on YouTube or wherever you want to catch us. We're on Twitch, YouTube, Patreon. We go simultaneously everywhere. We will be covering solstice stuff. Good morning, AJ or Danny. Sorry, AJ, you've been here. I saw your name and I saw Danny's above it. Cool. So with that being said, get down. I'm going to fight this chair the whole time. This is my Mars issue. Okay. So that's the week. There's a couple other things. Venus will square Saturn. So just if you have to hold any boundaries in your relationships, you might do that around the solstice. The sun will square Neptune. They do that every year, like I said. And then the sun goes into Capricorn, which is the solstice. It is the shortest day of the year. And then we come into the next week. By the way, a week from today, I will likely not be here. not because I don't love you, but because I will be spending my dad's birthday with him up in Pennsylvania. I don't often get the chance to do it. And so I will be in Pennsylvania for the 22nd, which is my dad's birthday and is next Monday. So our next live will be on the 29th. The week of the Christmas and Christmassy holidays, we'll probably take a break for live broadcasts that week. So just letting you all know now. I already have the next broadcast scheduled, so you can schedule yourself to be reminded for it here on YouTube, and then you'll be all good to go. Same will probably be go for the Twitch. I will try to delete the one for Christmas week, and because that would be what, Christmas Eve? Yeah. So I don't think we're going to do a Christmas Eve Twitch broadcast. I spend that time with my father-in-law's family. We have Chinese food and do scratch off lottery cards. It's really fun. So that's, next week's going to be the enjoy your time week. If you have any questions about next week, though, put them here. Happy to answer them. I've already analyzed next week because I'm working ahead, so I've got those covered for you. As you think about those, yeah, you're right, Steph. My chair is rising up like it's exalted. It has never done this before. Normally, if you see me like sitting like this and stuff on lives, it's because I bring this up and I'll turn this sideways and I'll use it as a backrest, and it falls back on me. So the fact that it's creeping up on me right now when I'm trying to just sit crisscross applesauce is weird. I've had it for like 5 years. It's the first time it started doing this. I'll take it. I would rather it have that. But yeah, interesting stuff. Cool. So do we feel ready and excited to jump into the new moon in Sagittarius that is conjunct the galactic center? Will travel be okay on the 23rd and 26th? Okay, so question from Lady Avalon about travel on the 23rd and 26th. When I'm looking at travel generically, I'm looking at Mercury. If I were looking for your own chart, I would look for the ruler of your third house if you're driving, the ruler of your ninth house if you're flying. Generically, I would get more, nitpicky in an actual consultation when it's you and me. But Mercury being out of the whatchamacallit. Come on, Krista. Post shadow. There it is. Mercury being out of post shadow is good. So that's awesome. Mercury is in detriment in Sagittarius. So Mercury's a little bit wonky. The thing I would say there is I wouldn't expect delays as much as I would just be aware of other drivers not paying attention and make sure you are a driver who is paying attention. Mercury and Sagittarius can get a little distracted. That being said, I would also have a really good driving playlist or audiobook to help, keep your mind entertained while you're focusing. If that's something, if you're like me and you need something else going on at the same time to focus better, that's what I would do. New moon with a nougat center. Shauna, I love that. Yeah. So Mercury for travel, pretty good. Just make sure you find ways to keep yourself entertained and focused, and you be aware of other drivers around that time because people might be getting a little spacey. Spacey, not spicy, hopefully not spicy. We'll see. Yeah. So I hope that helps. Great question, Lady Avalon. If you have follow-ups, let me know. That goes for the 23rd and the 26th. That's Tuesday and Friday. Neither of those days have perfecting transits. And the only transits in between is Venus moving into Capricorn and having a quick square with Neptune. So I think it's pretty good. But again, if you want to check your own chart really quick, if you're driving, look at the third house and the ruler of your third house. If something's going on in the third house, pay attention to that. If the ruler of the third house is doing something, pay attention to that. And the same would go for your ninth house if you're flying. Listen to the first dungeon crawler, Carl, on my road trip. Yes. It's so nice, right? I need to get back into that. My reading list of series is so long right now. Like we're doing, I had started reading The Hobbit. I need to finish that up because now we're reading C.S. Lewis in book club, and that's awesome. And I want to get back to Carl eventually. Yeah. Yeah. So that's, I hope, a good response to that question. Now, looks like everybody's ready to see the chart. Let me just make sure I've got my stuff organized here. Yep, it should look pretty when I share my screen. Here we go. All right, so we are going to bring up La Luna. Isn't she pretty? Okay, so my thing is all the way back up again. That is so weird. Cool. So we are looking at our lovely new moon here at 28 degrees Sagittarius. Now, the galactic center is at 27 degrees Sagittarius. Okay. So close enough. Usually, if it's something's within like 3 degrees, we call that on point. If it's wider than that, depends on the planet. We would be like take it or leave it depending on which planet it is. The slower the planet, the more I want it on top of something to call it a conjunction. The faster the planet, I give it more leeway because it moves faster. So in this case, we see that this moon is conjunct the galactic center and also Venus. Venus is there too. She's faster, so I'm giving her that little leeway because she'll catch up. I don't count Mars. Here's why. Mars is over the threshold of the sign. And so Mars is doing business elsewhere with different focus. And 28, 29, 0, 1, 2, 3 is far enough away that I'm like, you know what? Let's let Mars have that space. I don't think it's involved as much. Still worth studying. If you notice some martial qualities around that time, we could pay attention and say, you know what, maybe it was closer than it looked on the chart. And that's okay too. Yeah. So let's see. CS, yeah, seriously. Yeah, happy to help, Lady Avalon. So this is our new moon. We're really focusing on these two and pulling Venus in for good measure. Now, we think about Sagittarian qualities, right? It's a new moon in Sagittarius. So this moon is really bringing forward the qualities of Sagittarius. Sagittarius is a mutable fire sign. So this is, fire, but mutable fire. It's the flickering flame, right? It's always changing. It's not the striking of the match. That would be Aries, cardinal fire. It's not the steady flame. That would be Leo, fixed fire. This is the one that's a little bit chaotic. It's like fireworks, maybe. So just thinking about sparkles and glitter and those kinds of things will kind of give you an image of how we're seeing this play out. Get down. Okay, so sorry. So Sagittarius being that mutable fire sign, it is also ruled by Jupiter. And so Jupiter's rulership brings in some expansion and exploration. If you think about Sagittarius pulling the arrow back, we're wondering where it's going to land. We're analyzing the horizon, and you can be like imagining things and you're shooting for the stars and all of that wonderful stuff, right? In the constellation of Sagittarius, right about where the arrow is pointing in the sky is the galactic center, which, like we said, happens at around or is placed around the 27 degrees. So 27 of Sagittarius. And so this, like I said, is close enough. Adding in the galactic center to that expansive, curious, passionate, whimsical energy that Sagittarius has already, we think about what does the galactic center mean? Now, a lot of traditional sources aren't going to give us information on the galactic center. Why? Because they hadn't analyzed the sky that way yet, or because it didn't draw enough meaning to them yet, or for whatever reason. Now, in more modern times, we are studying it. We are wondering about it. We are incorporating it as a consideration to figure things out. Stephlyn, thank you for joining us. So yeah, sky glitter, that's what fireworks are. So as we think about what the galactic center could mean, what is the galactic center, right? The galactic center is the center of the Milky Way, the galaxy center. And so if we see this point in the sky that is lined up with the center of the galaxy, there might be some intensity to find there, right? And so I think that's valid enough to say, like, it is lined up with this really important position in the sky. I'm going to say that could bring something important. But when we think about the galactic center, I've seen a couple different opinions on it. Some will say it's fated. Some will say it gives retrograde kind of energy. Both of these seem like valuable insights to take into consideration because if you think about something being fated, it's the center of the galaxy. Everything revolves around that, right? So this is a focal point of the entire galaxy, and we're lining up with it. That does seem pretty unique, especially for a new moon to be lined up so well with it, right? To the point of the retrograde kind of energy, what is the galactic center physically or astronomically? It's a black hole. It literally warps space-time, right? So if something is a little bit wonky and timey-wimey in that situation, it does make sense because you have that. It just reminds me of like a whoom, whoom, whoom kind of energy coming out of this black hole that the moon and the sun are aligned with, and they are translating to us. So you can see how maybe that extra wonky wonky kind of energy where reality is just a little bit less concrete, could be something that we could take into account there, especially magically, right? If we're thinking in a magical lens, the potential energy of creation coming from the galactic center, which is where everything spins around, that's pretty potent. I like that. So, for when you're thinking about magic around this new moon, if I take everything into consideration, we do have a square from Saturn, but the moon is overcoming that square. So, it comes out on top. If you're going to do magic, maybe a ritual is in order to make sure that you're doing things in alignment with intention, right? When we look at, Mars is averse, Jupiter's averse and retrograde. So, like, I'd rather Jupiter be able to see, but Jupiter's also exalted, so we'll take it. When it comes to this, the only thing I keep my eye on, because the moon is, again, still pretty close to it, is that Saturn. And I would just say at that point, make sure you're following whatever rules you deem necessary to be responsible, right? And that would probably help. Just keep yourself out of trouble. It's got the Han Solo, yeah, the don't get cocky kid kind of thing about there. Like, be whimsical, but be practical. Make sure that as you're dreaming big, you know exactly what you're going to make in order for that dream to become reality. We're not just dreaming here, we're creating. So the step past dreaming of bringing something into rational world with you is where that Saturn can come in and make the intangible tangible, especially with what Saturn's going on with Neptune right now. So magically, that's how I would interpret this new moon if you're looking at something like that. What to create? If you're looking for inspiration because you don't have something in mind already, first and foremost, I would follow your intuition, follow your passion, follow those Sagittarian things, follow your curiosity, which is the word that I'm bringing up a lot in my analysis of it that I'll be posting on YouTube later. Follow your curiosity, let that lead you, and then also question it enough to make sure it's rational and practical and safe for you. That's all you got to do. Think twice and then go for it. Make sure you can do those things. Pre-checks. I like that. And then if you want, and you're like, I'm still kind of stuck. I overthink things all the time. So I totally relate. You would just look at where Sagittarius falls in your own chart, what house, and maybe in the area of life that is covered by those house topics, you create something. On this chart, right, it's a Leo rising, so this person would be doing creative work or romantic stuff or vacations or fifth house topics, right? Buying themselves a gift or something. That's where you could be creating something. So this would be, if you're looking for aligned relationship, you could do something there. You could create, especially with Venus there. I'm just saying, that's epic. Perfect. Leo risings, if that's what you're looking for, have fun with that. But anybody else, for me, Sagittarius is in my second house. So I would be calling in abundance and creating abundance in my life and getting very clear on what abundance feels like to me. And then having an idea of what abundance would practically look like in my life. Like, is it money or is it, comfy blankets and feeling safe and all these other things? Just get very clear on what that feels like and then what that feeling would actually look like in practice in your life. And you'll be good to go. So there's some magic for you for this new moon. Otherwise, getting into like the nitty gritty traditional astrology, we just think about, again, it's got the whimsy, right? So we're thinking about that galactic center. Another theory I've been reading about in some different forums, because we don't have traditional resources. So I'm looking at people who have done a lot of thinking about it and maybe a lot of testing it too, who has experience with natal placements with the galactic center, that I can see how they've experienced it in their life, which will lead to really great definitions, that kind of stuff. It is about completion of cycles in some way, right? The galactic center is what we are all as a solar system. The sun, like we go around the sun, right? But the sun's going around the galactic center in a 26,000 year cycle. So that's pretty special. And if you think about cycles, you can then also kind of bring in the idea of what cycle is beginning. A new moon, which is a cycle that is beginning between the sun and the moon. The moon is being reborn, right? Happening at the galactic center, which is the creation point, so to speak, of the galaxy. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool, right? Like you just think about the actual fact that that's what that is. It's pretty objective. So think about your place in the universe. Think about your place in your community. Think about who you want to be and the story that you want your life to tell. Especially think about the freedom of your life, right? Sagittarius does not want to be tied down. And so we think about what hero of what story do you want to be, and then allow the characters to fill in the pages with you. It's a very important theme that I've been noticing lately of be who you are and let the world, like let the aligned people come to you, and be a sun in and of yourself, right? Be a galactic center. I am magnetic to the best quality friends, to the best quality relationships, to the best quality opportunities, to the aligned abundance, all of those things. I am a magnet for the right things, for the life I am passionate about leading. Those are some things that I would definitely think about around this time as well. So how does that feel? how do we like it? Let me know. And yeah, I love the emojis. Thanks. Good morning, Jenny. So, any questions around that? Anything I can go into a little bit more detail? Anything I can explain in a better way? Happy to help. I love, I don't really consider it teaching. I like enabling understanding. I think that's the better way to say it. The moon is trining my ascendant, Leo rising. It does seem like the perfect time for the ritual I've been planning. Woohoo, Ren. Yes, yes, that's really cool. This is funny. I've been focusing on manifesting. So I popped in at a good time. That's awesome. Jenny, welcome. I need a crystalline affirmation of the day based on transits calendar. I should do like one of those tear offs, but I'd have to go through every day. I'm glad my affirmations are fun and useful, Shauna. Honestly, way back when, a couple of years ago, it was like 2015, I guess, I was going on Periscope every day and doing affirmations and trying to explain like what they actually meant so they didn't feel so tinny and stupid. So affirmations have been something that I've been, I don't know, I've been explaining or coming up with and trying to just make sure that they actually feel appropriate for years. Oh my God, 10 years. God, yes. Um, yeah, so that's the new moon, and I'm really excited about it. I hope you are too. Um, I like I said, I've pointed out the caveats, which do not seem like much. I'm looking over here. What is this? Oh yeah, I was looking at Cheroklo for someone a while back. Cheroklo is an asteroid that we were looking at for the potential of someone who has an affinity with herbs having Cheroklo in a good place in their chart. Don't pay attention to it here because I would be looking at that in someone's natal chart, and I would be looking for very specific parameters for an asteroid in that case. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So any questions on that? Or are we satisfied? You've been telling yourself, I'm divinely supported and the universe will make things go smoothly and timely. Yes. That's honestly a very perfect thing to, honestly, a ritual that is very easy. Come up with an affirmation like that. Perfect, Jenny. Light a candle. It could be a red candle. It'd be perfect. A red candle on the 19th. Let's see, the 19th. It's going to be 8:42 p.m. East Coast time. If you want to do it at exactly the time, great. But even just that day works. The next day would also still kind of work. The moon is going to tip into Capricorn. So, maybe being closer to it would be good, depending on how early or late you're going to stay up. Just lighting a candle, having that written on a piece of paper, say it out loud, burn it, and then you're good to go. You've done a ritual. It's that easy. What Saturn would be calling for there, though, is saying, okay, if the universe, if you are divinely supported and the universe will make things go smoothly and timely, Saturn would ask you, are you ready for all of those things? Have you become the person who can receive those things? Are you treating yourself in a way that shows that you deserve these things? Do you believe you deserve these things? Saturn's going to hold you accountable for believing in yourself and for being a good receptacle for those things. So that's the other side of manifesting, right? We can ask for it and say, yep, this is the thing. But if we're not creating the space for it, whether it's in ourselves or in our lives or whatever, it kind of runs into a block. So that's where Saturn's going to come in and say, okay, you want it, hold yourself accountable for being a good space, a good steward of it. Saturn, are you sure? Yeah. Yeah, block pools are going to be really great. And the way that you can identify block pools is when you say, I'm divinely supported, the universe will make things go smoothly and timely. If there's any part of you that just goes, ask yourself, why not? Why won't it happen? And then you might get some ideas that pop up in your head of like, well, I can't be divinely supported because this, or stuff's not going to work out for me because I don't deserve it, or because whatever. The other thing you need to ask yourself, this is one we often forget, is if I get this, what might I lose? Because sometimes our blocks are like, well, if everybody wants to hang out with me, then I can't lay on the couch on Saturdays anymore. So I don't want that. I'm going to block it. And then you don't get the aligned friends in that exact way, right? So you just got to make sure that you have created all the potential for it to manifest, for it to create itself. Um, and that'll help. Lauren says, I'm a Cap rising and I've started adding I'm ready in my manifestation statements and it's been super effective. Yes. Honestly, have to believe I'm ready. I will do this when I'm manifesting something or when something happens again and I'm like, I'm so done. I'm ready for this to be out of my life. I will say, I'm ready for this to be out of my life. But when it's out of my life, that means this is in my life. What am I going to replace this with? This. So I'll get mad. I'm a Mars ruled person. So anger is a highly manifesting energy for me. I don't get angry at people. I very much have to hold myself accountable for doing the work, having good mental health and, good self-awareness. But I'll say like, I'm ready for this. And if I'm not ready for this, come at me. What lesson do I need to learn? That can sometimes smack you in the face. I get smacked in the face a lot, but I ask for it. So it's okay. Yeah. Uh, it is very much like in K-pop Demon Hunters when you see the characters on the couch and then they launched Golden. Yeah. Yep. They thought they wanted the couch, but really, were they ready for it? Yes. So, yeah. And sometimes life, if you're gonna I don't know if I'm doing it right or not, right? So I'm not going to tell you that my way is good or right or like best practice. It's worked for me. It has highs and lows, but it's worked for me to say I'm ready for this, bring it. And if I'm not ready for it, show me, train me, knock me down, and so I can figure out how to get back up the right way. And I will get knocked down. I can get knocked down to my lowest low, and then I have to sit there and be like, I don't know if I like you anymore. And we battle it out, but that's also part of my nature, right? I'm a Mars ruled person, and so I thrive on challenges, I guess. um, One of the quickest ways to get me to overcome something that I feel like I'm not going to do is to dare me to do it, and I'll do it. So it's one of those situations of know thyself and just be ready to be supported in the way that might be most aligned for what you're asking for. Yeah. And I'm not saying you have to ask for something to knock you down so you can get back up again. That's just me. I need the eye of the tiger. And then I feel like I've accomplished it and I get more excited about it. You might be someone who's Venus ruled. And so you find aligned relationships, you assess your values, you do things in a more graceful way. I am jealous. That sounds wonderful, to be honest. Yeah. Awesome. Well, if there are no more questions on the chart here, I will stop sharing the screen and then we can talk about some other stuff. All right. Cool. Oh, good stretch, buddy. Jack is manifesting comfort in his life by making room by stretching. Good job. He's a good boy. He's 10 years old too. So, wow. Is this the new moon that's coming? Yes. Yeah, that's the one's coming up on the 19th, Jenny. Yes, it is. Yeah. Yep. That being said, we do have extra time. If anybody has questions about the week of the 25th, I can talk about them. It's a pretty docile week, dare I say. The one thing I interpreted while I was doing my skit for next week is that there may be some, what did I call it? Active imagination about our relationships that, again, Venus moving into Capricorn asks us to take the tangible steps to make real. So that's something to think about next week as well, because it happens right on the 24th, which is Christmas Eve. A lot of people spend that time and the following day with their family. So thinking about, the idealized relationships that you have in your family or the people that you spend your time around, and then thinking, what boundaries do I have that are important for me to feel like me? What boundaries can I set, or what steps can I take, or, how can I create this ideal reality for myself through action and responsible stuff. Yeah. Yep, it was so funny. Okay, so very mini rant. Okay, very mini rant, and trigger warning in case it was something I heard someone talking about in the Bible, but I made it astrological, which is fun. Um, yeah. So I was watching this video today, and I was gonna remix it, I think is what you call it, on Reels, but they didn't have that option. I wonder why. So there was this account of like, why in the Bible does everybody come of age and begin their life's work at 30 years old? And I was like, wait a second. So I started watching it. I started watching it, and they were like, David became king at 30. Jesus started his work supposedly at 30. Um, and then Joseph rose, gained the approval of Pharaoh at 30, and they mark it. They say he was 30 years old when this happened. And they're like, wow, 30 is such this random, mysterious number. And I was like, are you kidding me? It is not a random, mysterious number. 30 is roughly the age that you have your Saturn return. 30 is the true coming of age. It is when you have experienced the fullness of your chart for the first time, and now you are ready for responsibility. And they were like, it's this time where we come into our responsible and practical period of our lives. And I'm like, can you list more Saturn keywords there, please? I swear, some of the times in my life, I just want the job of being the person in the corner of the room who just has like a stool in the corner of the room and does this, so that when someone says something, I can just be like, come on, like you're so close to getting it. Um, but that's not the role I've been given in most cases. My stool in the corner of the room is here on YouTube and social media. But yeah, Gabe, you get it. I'm just like, that's the Saturn return, y'all. But if I brought that up, God forbid, like none of you would be without sin, and you'd all cast stones, I'm sure. So it just gets me. It gets me so bad. I actually spent this whole last year, I'm almost done. I spent this whole last year reading the Bible every day, the whole thing, including the Apocrypha, and listing out things that are like, oh, that's a curse. That's a magical spell. That's a reference to astrology. That's a reference to astrology. I have so many. And I honestly believe, based on some other research I've done, pretty lighter than it should be. But I really think that they didn't discount astrology as much as we like to chase it out of the narrative today. I really, really think that. I think that they understood the cycles. I know that they understood the cycles, and I think that they incorporated it. Now, did they attribute it to gods and stuff? Not as much. And they tried to combat gods by combating astrology. Fair. If you are someone you're pushing a monotheistic narrative, you're going to have to counter the polytheistic one, or the one that says that the planets represent God's motions, multiple God's motions, right? Fair. If that's your agenda, whatever. I understand that's what you're going to do. And also, you can't ignore the fact that you're still putting it in there. Um, let me see here. Do you have any thoughts or rants on any of the 2026 pop astrology's predictions? I'm seeing either fear mongering or magical thinking, and it irritates me. Lauren, the amount of times I have heard the word portal in the last 5 days, I'm trying to figure out the best way for me to present my take on this. And I'm going to do more research, because granted, okay, there are a lot of really important outer planet cycles, transits coming up, changes happening, cycles that occurred during very important periods in history. Yes, there may be some things that are like, whoa, coming up in 2026 and 2027, especially even around the eclipses I've been looking at. That being said, some people I do think are going too far to one side of like the world's going to blow to pieces and blah, 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 blah. And then there are those people that are like, it's just a portal for us to ascend with, which was my biggest concern when I noticed that the new moon was at the galactic center, and how many people are going to say, it's another portal. That's not how portals work. That's not a portal. That's not what that is. We did a bit of a rant on this on Friday too in the Alchemist Ink Spell, because we did it on 12/12, and everybody was talking about the 12/12 portal being so important this year, but nobody would tell you why. If they're not going to tell you why something is important, here's my thing, okay? To Lauren, if someone says this year's going to be this, and then they don't tell you why, I ignore them. I don't care what you have to say because you're not going to tell me why you say that. So, what do I have that tells me I should believe you? I'm sorry, I'm a cynic, but that's the way it is. And so, in my case, yes, important things are happening in this next year. Yes, I am putting together documents and I'm going to do a video and I'm going to do all the stuff that I can do to try to give rational stuff. Exactly, Gabe, so that I can. So that I can explain things and then tell you last time this happened. Heck, I did it like what was it recently? Something happened, and I did like the last couple times with my student study, I believe it was, where we're like, the last time this happened, it was this year, it was this, year, and here's this. So I will give you resources, not to prove myself right, but to give you something that if you still feel you want more, that's the rabbit hole you get to go down. I'm not here to make an argument to prove myself right. I'm here to say, this is what I think. Here's why I think it. And also, feel free to peer review me, please. I use Gabe and my mentor, Larry, for peer review all the time because I don't know. We just have a lot of brains out there who are thinking about the same stuff. And I think it's really worth putting it all together and seeing what sticks better and what's more rational and what's practical and what has really good points. So that's what I think about the 2026 stuff for now, but don't worry, probably in like January or so, I'll probably come up with something that I can share a little bit more. My energy for social media, you've probably noticed, is not high. I have rational opinions or opinions that just don't catch people as easily as the, love and light portal people do. So the algorithm and I don't really have a relationship. Um, and so I tend to try to reach as many people one-on-one or in groups like this as I can. So come here, ask me those questions. I'm in the thick of the research to do even more with this. Em and I are going to be putting together some stuff too. So yeah, if they call it a portal, if they say your ascension is coming, I call BS. Yes, you are growing and evolving and becoming a better version of yourself every day. That's not something you have to wait for. And yes, there are some opportunities in the world that are coming up that may affect you as an individual, especially if your timing has something to say about it. But that's not like, oh, the one I saw this morning. If you feel like you're shedding your skin, it's because we are finishing the year of the snake. What? No, it's because, like it's December and like people go through these cycles and like yes, and I guess maybe yes, and let me not be too cynical. Sure, we're finishing the year of the snake, and you might be shedding your skin so that you can become a horse because that's the next. I think it's fire horse is next. I was born during the year of the horse, and I have no shade against Chinese astrology. It's astrology that developed in a different system and has different ways of understanding than I understand and than I'm rehearsed in. So Chinese astrology is fine. These are not Chinese astrologers that are saying you're shedding your skin because it's the year of the snake finishing up. That's not them. So I don't listen to them as much because they're not Chinese astrologers. They're just taking Chinese astrology and saying, "Ooh, I can think of something pretty to say about it, and I'm going to say it because the algorithm will show it to people." And that's a bummer in my mind. But that's what I think. Um, yeah. Yep. The right apple manifest. Thank you, AJ. I hope so. Um, Still fighting with my chair. I saw a post about the Uranus placement in your chart shows where you'll have sudden good luck. I had many thoughts. Sudden good luck. So here's what I know about Uranus this year. Uranus moved into Gemini in 2025, moved back out and went back into Taurus briefly. So Uranus moves really slowly, but is currently retrograde. And Uranus will be coming back into Gemini, which is a thing, right? Uranus in Gemini and its aspects that it's making there, particularly with Pluto and some other stuff that's happening. Uranus is the one that I'm keeping my eye on the most. Uranus, as far as luck, depends on your chart. Jupiter is the one I would look at for more reliable indications of luck. By far, Uranus is characterized And I refer to Richard Tarnas, Cosmos and Psyche, the book for this. There is an audio version. It's great. Gives really good analysis. Also, Tarnas does a book, a very short book called Prometheus the Awakener, because he makes the argument that Uranus would probably be better named Prometheus, because there's so much inspiration and revolution and progress and all of these things, like bringing fire from the gods to people and creating that boom of innovation that Prometheus did. That seems to coincide with a lot of what Uranus is up to. But there was, as case in point, to give you food for thought around the idea of Uranus and spontaneous luck. There was an astrologer, I can't remember who specifically it was. Gabe, maybe you'll remember this, but he noticed that Uranus was doing some kind of an interesting transit in relationship to his own chart, which is important. If Uranus isn't looking at you, what's going to happen with you and Uranus, right? Uranus is going to be on my lot of fortune all this year. Watch me. Uranus was on my lot of fortune the day I got hit by a car. So there's another thing. And lot of fortune is your physical fate, well-being, wealth, that kind of stuff. Yeah. But there was this guy, I think it was in like later medieval 1600s kind of area. I mean, Uranus had to have been discovered, so it was probably in the 1600s, later 1700s likely. I think it was in the UK, and this person was studying and noticed that Uranus was going to do something interesting with his chart that day. And right when that transit perfected, his house caught on fire, and this guy from outside watching his house burn was recording the Uranus transit. So two examples here. One, that guy, his house caught on fire. The other one, me, when Uranus conjoined my lot of fortune and stationed retrograde on it, I got hit by a car. That's not going to happen for everybody, right? It's not like we don't all have the exact same experience, because life in the world would be very boring that way. But Uranus can also bring a sudden turnaround of something, right? You think of Uranus as the flipping coin, and you just got to see where it's going to land. The aspects it makes may help you understand if it's going to be for better or for worse. There are some other things that you could take into account there, right? Like, honestly, I think I again, I'm looking at Jupiter for things of really good fortune that happened for me this year. When I looked at the astrology and I vetted it with my mentor, Jupiter was responsible for the positive luck I had this year. Uranus was partially responsible for the negative luck I had this year. Other factors also played in. Usually the outer planets work in proxy or in tandem with a more personal planet or a personal placement in order to bring stuff into your personal life. So that's the evidence I have to work with historically and in my personal experience with with Uranus. Jenny, I'm glad you liked the shed your skin to become a horse line. Yes, Jupiter is more about luck. Yep. Let me catch up here. Honestly, I don't pay attention to much spiritual content other than people, including you and Emily. Jenny, I appreciate that. And let me tell you, I don't take it lightly. I hold myself accountable. Probably too much, but I do hold myself accountable to be reliable for you. Extra funny, frustrating because he's only a year older than me. Like, you can't be old, my dude. I'm right behind you. That's great. Let's see. Shauna, luck and Uranus, you are my student. Let's see. Discovered by Herschel in 1781. So it would have had to have been the 17 and 1800s. Thank you, Gabe. And wasn't it originally going to be called, was it Bob? Because they were going to name it after a king. I think it was going to be, well, that would have been Robert. Who was the king they were going to name it after, but the short name? It was like going to be named Fred or Bob or something. And then they were like, no, we'll name it Uranus. Probably better. Going to be making a manifesting candle, and I intuitively know it needs to be done on a Thursday. I didn't realize Jupiter was associated with luck. Jupiter is associated, it's the greater benefic, right? So people will like to say Jupiter says yes to everything, for better or for worse. Jupiter expands, right? It's a gas giant. So think about Jupiter as the expanding heat of something. And when you ask for Jupiter to help you with something, it's going to expand that. It's like blowing up a balloon with helium, and then it can fly away or whatever. But yeah, Jupiter is the greater benefic. I like to relate Jupiter character-wise to the Ghost of Christmas Present, specifically from the Muppet Christmas Carol, because that's kind of the image I get, the cornucopia of abundance and so many things. to the point of like a whole room filled with it. And what are you going to do with that? But it's nice to have, if especially if you share it. Um, yeah. Do, 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 do. George. That's what it was. It was George. Yep. Thank you, Gabe. Yeah. So originally Uranus would have been named George, but it got named Uranus. And Tarnus makes a pretty great argument that it may have been better named Prometheus. Uranus is actually based on Uranus, which is the sky god from the Greek pantheon, Titan god. Um, so also pretty neat, pretty neat. I had a conversation about that yesterday. Jupiter being the big ghost of Christmas present. Yeah, yeah, right. It's the come in and know me better, man, and like just gregarious, jovial comes from Jove, but also Jupiter. I was doing research lately, trying to figure out like if the whole monotheism strand came from several deities where they just picked one and kind of went with that one, which one would it be? And it comes between Saturn and Jupiter, which makes sense. Those were the two that had, the 20-year cycle. Their conjunctions were really important. Some people say Jupiter. Jupiter is more associated with like the Christos energy. Saturn would be more associated with the, you could call it more like the Old Testament God energy potentially. But there's evidence to say that both had influence as they kind of got blended together into a one singular God situation. That's what I've found. Yeah, we went down to the Jove rabbit hole and word search. Yeah, research. Yep. Yep. It's really fun to like word origins are another good thing. I was an English major, and it prepared me to read medieval astrological texts, which is very helpful. I can read William Lilly written in the like with the two S's are represented as an F, and I can read it like nobody's business because I spent my college years reading the Canterbury Tales. So it helped me a lot. Yeah. Well, this has been really fun. We got in a little bit of a rant in there. Oh, fun fact. One last Bible rant in here that I thought was hilarious. Literally, I laughed out loud at this. It actually, speaking of the Canterbury Tales, reminded me of a Canterbury Tale in its essence because they tend to be a little bit funny. And so I was wrapping up the book of Acts, which is a wild ride in and of itself. But Paul, that's a rant I could get into. Paul, who is the basis of most of modern Christianity and does not always agree with what Jesus would have said. So, anyway, was preaching in, I guess, the third floor of a building. And some guy was sitting in the window listening. And he got so bored that he fell asleep and he fell out the window and died. And Paul went down and was just like, no, guys, he's just sleeping. And the Bible literally says in the book of Acts, and they carried him home very much alive, but we don't speak of it. I don't think so. Like press X for doubt on that one. Hard. Spam X for doubt. But yeah, so I know. My husband and I are reading it together, and he's much more on the Taoist side, and I'm much more on I have a blend of a bunch of belief systems that I put together to make what I like. And I was like, wait a second. Paul killed a guy from boring him to death and then was just like, nah, he's just sleeping, y'all. Like, don't worry about it. And they carried him home. So if he was alive, he was broken. Just, I have doubts. And I actually have a meeting with my theology mentor soon, and I'm going to be like, hey, what's your much longer educated perspective on the fact that Paul killed a guy out of boredom? Uh, I love bringing up these things because for some reason, my mentor has never really heard these things before. Is it Chaucer who wrote the Canterbury Tales? Yes, Chaucer wrote the Canterbury Tales. In fact, Dan and I were in a Chaucer class when we got to know each other better. We met in an Arthurian literature class, but I made him take Chaucer because I liked his personality, and because apparently we were going to get married one day. He was with someone else at the time. I respected it. Didn't like her, but I respected it. And we were reading the Miller's Tale the one day, and Dan was the one who pointed out that the Miller's Tale, spoiler alert, has a big fart joke in it. So feel free to read that and find the fart joke, because that's what he and I brought up when we were talking about the Paul killed someone out of boredom, bored someone to death. Ever heard of being bored to death? Why, yes, I have. Yeah, it's called Sundays at church. That's not well, I mean, it was. I did fall asleep in church a lot, especially as a kid. I did not fall out of any windows at church. I don't think I've ever fallen out of a window. So there's that. Yeah, the first Monty Python skit. I don't know. I think it would be written by someone who was nearby. I don't know if Paul would have written it himself. He takes things very seriously from what I've noted in the writings. Yeah. If you bored someone to death, what type of wood would they be? Is this an actual joke, AJ? Like, do you have the punchline or do I have to make it up myself? Because I'm interested if you have the punchline. I'm willing to wait. Like, we're at time, but what would they be if someone were bored to death? Oh, no, you don't have a punchline. Okay, we'll make one up. Bore as in bore in a hole. Yeah. Mm. Yeah, I don't know. For the sake of the season, let's say pine because they're pining for a way to get out of there. Um, and that's where I'll leave it. Thank you all. Thank you to my chair for being the comic relief of this episode. I will see you in 2 weeks. We're going to take a week off. I will be thinking about you the whole time. Enjoy the new moon this week. Catch us on Wednesday. We're going to get up that tower in Zelda this week. I swear to goodness, we're getting up that tower. I've been researching ways to do it to make sure that we get up that tower and make some progress in this story. And after the Christmas holiday, I should have an even better setup. So that'll be fun too. I needed this today as well, Shauna. Thank you all. See you on Wednesday night at 6 p.m. on Twitch for gaming and magic. And then also Friday for the Alchemist Ink Spill, where Em and I will talk a lot about solstice rituals. And I am excited about that. Have a really wonderful week in the meantime, guys. You make my day, and I hope you have a wonderful one as well. Bye.